Thank you so much. I appreciate being here today and look forward to diving in. So I just wanted to mention right off the bat that the information shared here today is not representative of the organizations that I'm involved with, but rather my voice, speaking on the energy transition. So I wanted to discuss, as we progress the future energy system required of us, there's three main topics I'm going to dive into. The first is on the influence you have within your community as an energy champion and how your environment can really shape your direction. I'll also be going into the value of your voice, both within your personal and professional networks, and key resources for energy literacy. So the career pivot, I actually relocated to a rural village, as mentioned, about 5 years ago. It was on a summer trip with my husband, and I found myself standing on this beach, knowing that I needed to be here. And you're probably thinking, well, of course you do, it's beautiful, but there was definitely a stronger calling to be drawn to Caslow. And my background is actually working in the petroleum industry. So coming from Calgary, a large, vibrant city, and then coming to a little gem of a town, but very vibrant as well. So with rural villages, I quickly noticed there was a struggle for accessible energy here. And relocating to the rural community of Caslow, there was less than 1,000 people here. And this was really a part of my journey that led me to pivot my career, focusing on the energy transition. And it was truly through this experience of packing up and moving here that I gained that firsthand perspective on the importance of accessible energy. So one of the first things I had to learn was how to use an axe to chop wood, because our main source of residential heating is a wood burning stove. And in fact, getting your hands on a logging truck of wood is actually pretty complicated, kind of like winning the lottery out here, not because of the amount of wood produced, but more the politics around which mills have claimed that wood. So we do lack natural gas lines here, and we do have frequent power outages. So those wood burning stoves have really been that viable part of living here. This new environment brought an awareness and curiosity for me to explore renewable energy solutions. And sure enough, I quickly found out that I lived on a hotspot. So you can see here, this is Ainsworth Hot Springs. It's a 5-minute drive from our home. And the land is definitely, it's really seen as a gift here. And these hot springs are made available by the Tunaha Nation. It's also very common for people to see hot springs on their property within our area. And this was the start to growing my passion for geothermal. So my career focus shifted with my roots founded within my community. So I've been able to use my transferable skills as a geologist in the petroleum industry to explore renewable energy solutions for that low carbon pathway, and have had the opportunity to be that energy champion, not only in Caslow, but other rural communities in Western Canada, with actually Hinton being one of them. So finding my voice in the energy transition. And this connection with community is really imperative to tie both the social and energy systems. So what's neat about geothermal, and I know John touched on it a bit, I love the graphic that he showed there by Grasby, but once hot water is brought to the surface, so you're looking at 100 to 120 degrees minimum to produce electricity. And you run that through the turbine to produce that electricity, but there's actual residual heat remaining within that water. So it's typically 70 to 80 degree water, and you can put to use in what we call direct use heating opportunities for communities. And this is the part that gets me really excited, because you can see here all these different opportunities, everything from the recreational and service industry, forestry, district heating and cooling, which is a huge one, as well as agriculture. And what's really great is communities can really see value adds for them personally that align with their current culture and their current skill sets. And it can really help them to reduce their GHG emissions with a sustainable base load, so 24/7 energy solution. The other great thing is you can cascade them down. So start with the opportunities requiring the highest heat. And I am working on a project in Hinton, Alberta with Novus Earth that is producing electricity as well as direct use heat actually for an aquaponics facility, so that there's the opportunity for both energy security as well as food security. So discovering your voice in the future energy system. I always say be curious, seek out information, resources, conventions, webinars, to really learn and grow your knowledge in this rapidly growing space. You know, what up and coming energy solutions intrigue you, and dive into that. Discover your passion. Being gritty, so working hard to pursue something you love requires both passion and purpose. So not only you need that interest in what you're doing, but also that belief that you can really positively affect a greater good by doing it. Being visible, so making that conscious decision to put yourself out there and raise awareness about where you want to head, whether that be it in your career or in your personal lives. And it wouldn't just be within that inner circle, but publicly, and getting involved in the energy space that interests you. So volunteering in this space and following leaders in this space. And then probably most importantly is just being yourself, because we all have something to give. So I encourage you to speak your truth and let your passion guide you on your journey. I wanted to bring up Student Energy. It's actually a global organization that started here in Alberta. So I know we have some students with us today, and there is a Student Energy chapter at U of A. So it is a safe haven for students to gather and really engage in energy discussion, have hands-on learning, as well as energy literacy. So the purpose for them is to empower the next generation of leaders who are accelerating an equitable energy transition. And youth are defined as anyone from 18 to the age of 30 here in Canada. One thing that I found really interesting based off a recent report that they did worldwide was actually asking youth which of the following groups have ever asked them to provide their thoughts and opinions on energy. And it's pretty minimal. I mean, 11% had been asked by government, 13% from the energy industry, 24% from charity organizations or non-for-profits, but 41% hadn't from anyone. And yet these are the motivated voters and employees, not in the future, but now. And so the youth are here now to ignite change. And if you're in the audience, you know, I want you to know that your voice is valuable. And a few other key things that some voices that were captured through the study they did was having a reverse mentorship approach, or as I like to say, a co-mentorship approach, and really seeing everybody's opinion as equals, and the power of that intergenerational collaboration, and including youth in the decision-making process. So for government, this would relate to the climate and energy policy. For business, it can relate to the strategic pathways forward. For university, it can mean building platforms founded on research to allow their voices to be heard. And this, I'd like to think of this as gold. This is some energy transition resources that I put together. When I was pivoting, I found quickly that my network was everything. And second to that, sourcing out this information, it took quite some time, and I couldn't have done it without my mentors and energy leaders in this space. So this will actually be attached to the side here, so you can download it and you can click on any of these links, and it's a valuable tool for you to explore a whole bunch of different resources to really find your passion here. And I also wanted to say, if you're thinking about volunteering in this space, a lot of these organizations too would be a great place to reach out. The Avatar Innovations Program. So just over a year ago, I was a part of the first cohort. And the Avatar program, their slogan is really "the new energy future awaits, let's build it." And it was an excellent way to allow my voice to be heard and to truly help build the energy system that the future requires of us. So being a part of the first cohort, it brought together a team of emerging leaders, mainly focused on the petroleum industry. And through this, we were able to take on an active learning project. So our group was geothermal, and you're asked to come up with an idea in this space. And we started out with 44 teams of 6, and there's now 3 that have actually incorporated to become a company. So really exciting to see that innovation happen. And it really provided me with a launching pad for my career transition, because it brought out that entrepreneurial mindset and allowed me to analyze problems differently. I learned not to become attached to the solution, but rather fall in love with the problem, and learned that when you fall forward. I gained confidence in my ability to have an impact, to really truly create a technology that can accelerate the energy transition. And this is my wonderful team that's CO Thermal. So we did incorporate through this process. Now on to Energy Futures Lab. So Energy Futures Lab is collaboratively addressing complex energy challenges beyond the constraints of single organizations, disciplines, and perspectives. And they see the energy transition as more than just technological advancement. There are the complexities, the interconnectedness between our social systems, as well as our energy system. And Energy Futures Lab has innovation challenges that leverage Canada's assets to accelerate a net zero future. So if you haven't heard about Energy Futures Lab, this is a welcoming opportunity to reach out. Some of these innovation challenges are that could relate to you, or use seed funding that really helps to break down barriers for startups. So if you're in that 18 to 30 age range, you can be eligible for receiving funding to get your idea up and going. There's also community roadshows to really discuss sustainable energy plans based on the values, needs, and culture of each community. And then exciting, take note. So there's a Youth Innovation Jam. This is on May 7th in Calgary, and it will be a day filled with innovation, learning, and networking with some of Alberta's most cutting edge leaders in the energy transition. So it's going to bring together 50 youth from that 18 to 30-year-old age range and represent a diverse cross-section of interests, backgrounds, and geographical areas. So it's a free event, and the link will be shared with you here. And I encourage you to apply if you're eligible. Now, with Energy Futures Lab, there's fellows, and there's actually 44 fellows that bring a diverse group of innovators and influencers to really shaping the energy system. And I encourage you to reach out to the fellows, spark conversation, read their bios, and connect. One of the first discussions we had as entering the fellowship was challenging us to find somebody in the room that had the same vision, experience, or perspective as our own. And the reality is you just won't find it. No one else will speak for you to represent that perspective. So it's really important for you to bring your voice. And a reminder that we all hold that perspective, fellowship or not, to engage with our networks and co-create in this space. Another way that you can be an advocate in your network is actually with the Newtonian Shift game. So this is a simulation to explore the strategic decisions and business models required to accelerate the global energy transition. And you can request to have this brought to your organization. So I'm just going to take the time now to play a video on that.
The game is called the Newtonian Shift because it's based on a fictional country called Newtonia, who's entering this energy transition. And essentially the game encapsulates 20 years of an energy transition in a dynamic, very interactive 5-hour game.
I had so much fun. I was expecting it to be kind of dry because it's political and there's so much in the news about it, so people's perspectives are really colored. But it was engaging and very dynamic, and you had to move around and use a lot of critical thinking, but in a fun way.
I want to say that when I came in here, I was the one that was very skeptical. Games are just games at the end of the day, but this is really something of a different nature, I think, where it changes your mindset as you move through the game, and you start to think differently because you are forced to act in a different role.
It's one thing to say, I wonder what the person on the other side of the table thinks. It's quite another to say, I have to play the role of that person and be on the other side of the table. It really opens your mind to really want to say, is there some empathetic positions I could have leaving after I played this game that I didn't have before I played this game?
Jumping into the role of an oil sands company made me realize that, there's a long future for all of us in this game, and we need all perspectives at the table.
The level of conversation and some of the solutions that people brought up were innovative, and if not innovative, thought-provoking. We had great facilitators who actually forced people to be part of the conversation and force some of those perspectives by asking really thought-provoking questions.
The idea is not that we're going to come out of this with all the answers, but we're going to come out of it with a heck of an experience that can spark more strategic discussions around our roles and other stakeholders' roles in the transition itself.
I know for me personally, I would look at it as what are the larger corporations going to do? So a really big takeaway for me is that me as an individual has a huge role to play, and the opportunity to continue to learn and educate myself and to be an advocate.
I would love to have key decision makers from different areas come and play this game. From executives in oil and gas to executives in renewables, play it at the same time.
I would be thrilled to take this back to my company to get people thinking about what are the issues that we're actually dealing with and how do we honestly see our company facilitating this energy transition. And I think that this game really lays out what some of the challenges are and will give us a really good idea from a company perspective of how we should be and could be addressing them.
All right. So the link for that video will also be available to you. So lastly, this is just the beginning of the energy transition, and it's time for us to build the energy future. I'm committed to building energy literacy. I'm committed to accelerating an inclusive and equitable transition. I'm committed to building resilience in rural and marginalized communities as the world transitions to a low carbon future. And I can't wait to see how each one of you contribute to the future energy system required of us. As Sandeep mentioned, be enthusiastic and discover your passion, and let your voice be heard. Let it echo through the mountains.